Greetings. Yes, it's a daft hat, but it's flipping freezing, and I'm making my first sort of regular attempts to get out walking, albeit not in the same energetic fashion I'm used to, but I'm starting to get my mobility back now. I'm doing nothing but sort of resting with my feet up, and it gets boring after a while. But anyway, I'm not complaining, being looked after very well by the NHS, and just wanted to let you know I'm on the mend, although they've told me probably a good 6 months to full recovery, and that will be dependent on the results of my x-rays and MRIs, which are happening this next week or so. So physiotherapist said get out, try and do as much exercise as you can manage. So I'm tending to sort of go out in the mornings, try and do a walk, take it easy, and then the afternoons I tend to be pretty sore. So yeah, getting there though, feel a bit more optimistic about it all, and I'm back in my local environment here, in our little local nature reserve, which is lovely, and it is flipping cold. Hence the silly hat. But at least it isn't the same hat that I keep getting berated about. But anyway, looking like Nanook of the North. But that's okay, I don't mind that. I've got Nora with me, look. There she is. So there we go. So yeah, obviously really sad that the Wayward Sons can't be at down at Rockstock this weekend, but wish all the bands and my fellow Planet Rockers all the very best for the event, you know, which is always brilliant. We've played it a couple of times over the years, and always so well staged and so well put together. So yeah, I hope you have a great time. So I thought I'd continue on my walk and talk series with a winter walk and talk, which is not about anything specific, but I suppose just about my experiences in recent months, and how it's had a bearing on, you know, how I go forward. And I think this is all part and parcel of the same conversation that we've had before about resilience, you know, and about how you survive the rigors of your chosen career as a musician, if you like, and what that's, you know, the consequences of something like getting an injury like I've had, a back injury, which literally renders you renders it impossible, you know, to kind of get on the stage and hold a guitar and all that stuff. What kind of effect it has on your mental state, and but more than that, actually more about the kind of then the consideration of how you go forward. Now for me, so much of my life has been about being pretty physical and taking things on and you know, hitting things sort of head on, and I don't know what I'm trying to say here. I guess I've never been afraid or shy of hard work and trying to achieve my dreams, you know, and finding a focus to do that. Because there's the sort of key thing really, is the vision and the focus about what you want to achieve. But I guess it's all well and good having these plans, because the best laid plans of mice and men and all that can go awry, as we know. And I think for me, it's been a sort of realization this episode that you have to be prepared to roll with the punches and change those plans, which is not always easy when you've got long-term planning that you have to have when you're working in the music industry. A big part of what we do is a kind of diary-based, right, what we're going to be doing in 6 months' time, and when I've made this music, or we've created this record, or we're going to do this tour. It's always so many months in advance, because it never takes into consideration the possibility of things like this. So I would say one of the biggest shocks for me really was the very fact that it couldn't just be brushed off. I think a big part of being young is that, you know, if you get knocked down, you get straight back up again, you know, if you're that way inclined, like I've always been, and you kind of walk it off, this whole thing. Oh yeah, you know, I'll walk it off. You know, I've fallen over on stage. I've, you know, had many injuries when I was working on the building sites, when I was running a building firm. And you do have this whole thing about, well, it'll be okay, I'll just carry on and it'll go away, you know. The trouble with long-term injuries is that they don't, and what they really do is it accumulates, and the longer you leave it and the less attention you pay to it, the kind of worse it gets. It sort of hides in the background, you know. And so there's a sort of, it's like a sort of sleeping problem, you know, and something that I've had to face that has been, you know, my own fault. But none of us get it completely right, do we? You know, my endeavour to carry on being in a band and make music has overridden pretty much every other consideration. And I think herein lies the rub, you know, this you've got to sort of, especially as you get older, you've got to start to sort of, I guess, rationalise that and try and find, you know, new ways of doing things and take it a bit easier and I think understanding that you can't carry on like you used to do 25 years before, which, as daft as it sounds, is really difficult. Because I look at pictures of myself, you know, from 25 years ago, and aside from the fact I've got short hair, it feels like it's the same person, you know. And the last few gigs we've done this year, I did a load of gigs this year in the spring, and I was having problems there. Now, I didn't really mention it to anyone, but I was having issues with my back, but I wanted just to carry on doing what I normally do, you know, and again, it's a little bit of denial, I guess, really. But the lesson I'm learning at a pretty fast rate at the moment is you can't feel sorry for yourself. It's pointless and it doesn't get you anywhere, and you have to carry on, but in a slightly different way. So my whole sort of focus now is to get my health back up and sort out the problem so I can then have a plan of action, you know, which may mean things will change. I hope not hugely, but certainly they will change, because the problem with long-term injuries, like back problems, and I'm sure anyone out there who's had a back problem will recognise this, is that unfortunately it never really corrects itself. And I want to try and avoid surgery if I can. I've certainly been talking to other people close to me and otherwise about the long-term implications of surgery and things like that. Now, I'm hoping once I get my results back that won't be necessary. But irrespective of that, you know, I have to, just like everybody else on the planet, you just have to take, you know, what's coming to you and make the best of it. That's what I think I've always tried to do in my life, you know. You just try and make the best of situations. It doesn't always work, but the reality is that we've only got our own internal energy, our own internal voices, our own drive and determination to do things. That's all we have. No amount of people telling you you'll be okay or things will get better ever really helps, actually. You have to feel it inside. Now, what I have been doing is I've been concentrating on aspects of my work that I could do. I think, you know, it's very easy, isn't it? I mean, one of the things that was said to me when I first had my episode 6 or 7 weeks ago, whenever it was, oh, well, you know, just put your feet up, you're going to have to anyway, watch Netflix, don't do anything, just relax, try and get better. Well, of course, it really doesn't work like that for people who are like, you know, me, who were always on the move, always doing something, you know, even if it's just stuff around the house, you know. So that kind of didn't work for me. I mean, it worked to start with because I had no choice. Being laid down on the floor watching Netflix from the floor level is an experience, one not I would particularly want to repeat endlessly, but yeah, it was, you know, it was never going to work for me really. So I sort of I've thrown myself back into carried on working on the second Lookout album, which has been you know, has had its challenges because I can't sit at my desk at the moment because it causes me too much discomfort. So I'm having to do it on my laptop, which is again not quite as easy. because I don't have the second screen and I can't sort of like, you know, evaluate things in the same sort of way. Don't have the big speakers. I'm having to do it on headphones, blah, blah, blah. So it's not easy, you know, but nothing is easy, is it? You have to sort of just take the rough with the smooth, and starting to get results. We're sort of working on stuff. I've got Chris Blandon, the bass player, coming to my place in a couple of days to repair some bass guitar. Got Dave Kemp, the great Dave Kemp, coming down in a week, or about 2 weeks actually, I think, to carry on working on some keyboard parts. Plus we're going to do an evening with Tobin Dave, like a Christmas special, which should be good fun. More about that in due course. And then I've got you know, Jason Barwick, guitar player, who's played on the first volume. He's coming to my place after Christmas, and we're going to carry on working on the guitar. So I think we're looking at, you know, I'm hoping a February release for the second record, but we'll just have to see how that goes, really. Because one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to rush it, and I want to make sure that the quality is maintained, because I'm very happy with the first one. So, you know, this is just about kind of carrying on, really. So this whole thing has got me thinking about motivation, you know, and being motivated as an older person. I mean, I was 57 this year, and I feel, you know, apart from having this silly episode with me back, I feel very fit and healthy, and you know, sort of still feel, I think more than anything else, mentally equipped. In fact, more so than ever, actually. And you know, a big part of the conversation with Lookout is how I've been dealing with, you know, other aspects of long-term problems I've had in my life, you know, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. I want to talk about it because I don't think men are very good at talking about this specifically. I think you ladies out there are far, far better than us men discussing our mental health problems. You know, we tend to, or have done, you know, brush it under the carpet, but it's very important. It's the same as having a you know, a bad back. You know, if you hide your mental health struggles, it's only going to fester and get worse, and, you know, cause problems not only for yourself but everyone around you. So, you know, Lookout is a reaction to how I've dealt with my own mental health struggles, which have been long term, you know. But I'm pleased to say I feel like I'm coming out of the woods with that one. And I've sort of realised, you know, a huge part of moving forward in life is to, you know, I've talked about this before, use the difficulties. Don't be afraid of the difficulties you come up against. You know, move through them, push through them, embrace it, you know, face it head on, and tackle it. The biggest problem you're going to get is if you don't do that, and I've certainly experienced that, you know, just pushing problems to the back of your head, you know. And I hope to live a few more years yet, and I want to make sure that, you know, my life as an older person is as vibrant and as exciting for myself, you know, as it was when I was a young man, you know. But it's the same old thing, isn't it? I remember my granny saying to me when I was, you know, visiting her once when she was still alive and I was very, very young. She said, the thing is, you know, you look in the mirror and it's not the same person staring back that's in your head, you know. And I think that's very true. We still stay, you know, the same person in our heads that we have done for decades, you know. And I think that's kind of part of sort of powerful, that, really. Because if you can maintain that sense of youthful exuberance in yourself, inside yourself, and you can keep bringing that out, and that's the way that you feel about yourself, then you're going to be okay. Because I think it's when you decide to be old. I know it sounds daft, and I don't want it to sound flippant, because, you know, it's not the same for everybody, of course, and everyone's circumstances are entirely different. But I do think there's a lot to be said for, you know, waking up, feeling like you've got something to achieve, and keeping hold of the dreams that you've always had. And I think one of the problems that we're all encountering these days is just the kind of pressure that's put on every one of us through social media, and you know, the sort of constant bombardment of information that we have on, you know, minute by minute. It certainly didn't used to be like that, and I think we've lost something because of that situation. It used to be, you know, we kind of muddled along a little bit more, maybe weren't quite so anxious. I don't think social media really helps at all, but, you know, I don't want to decry it, because I've, you know, like just all of us, I've used social media to my advantage, and I love keeping in touch with people, and it's great to be able to do things like this and report upon, you know, the world around us. It's just I guess it just depends on sort of how you do it and how much you value it. I mean, certainly for me, one of the things that's sort of changed recently is I don't feel quite so attached to the need to explain myself anymore. Now, that might sound a bit of a crazy thing to say, explain myself, but I do think, when you sort of enter into the public eye a little bit, and someone like myself, I'm not a hugely well-known person, but ultimately, no matter what, you end up becoming available. Now, I don't mean to sound disingenuous or ungrateful, because I'm really not. I've embraced and welcomed in my life as a musician over the years. It's just that it's changed. Back in 1987, when Little Angels was just getting on our feet, we had one or two magazines that we could be assured that we might get some attention in, Kerrang, Metal Hammer, Metal Forces, these kinds of places, and magazines rather, and we were lucky if we got on the radio, and it was a major thing if you did, even if it was on local radio, it was like a big deal, you could hardly ever get your music played. Now, of course, it's completely different, everyone's announcing themselves using Facebook and social media as a kind of distribution system, which is exactly what it is and what it should be. But of course, it's a completely different sort of thing from when I started. And so, a big part of my struggle, if you like, not struggle, wrong word. Big part of my, I guess, learning was to understand how that has changed, and again, welcome it in. Don't get me wrong, it can be incredibly frustrating. I mean, this first volume of the Lookout album, we're putting it out ourselves, as do what we call D2C, direct to customer. There's no record label, but we've employed a plugger, Emma, who's absolutely brilliant, and Rob, my partner in the business, Rob Town, who is not heralded enough actually. He works tirelessly on this project, and we've achieved a lot, and a lot of that's because of my past, obviously, and I want to celebrate that. And going forward, because of all these things, and that being a big part of me sat around over the last few weeks, is that I've been reflecting on all of this and realised how lucky I am and how pleased I am that people still care. That's the thing, and I hope that it can continue. I mean, I'm very pleased with the rest of the music that we've got that's coming out on these next two records, but more than that, I want to evolve and change into a new kind of artist and do things on my own terms, and hope that the audience can come along with me to enjoy the ride. So peaceful here. It's really, really nice. Not many people about as well. So anyway, I'm going to finish this off now. Not as long as I normally do, I suppose, but who wants to listen to me rant on? But anyway, in conclusion, it's a really interesting time in my life right now. Getting older, it's a real privilege. I want to say that, and again, I think this issue, this sort of injury I've had and having to deal with it has sort of brought that into sharp focus and made me realise you've got to be thankful for what you have, and but keep moving forward. I think Stallone said in Rocky Balboa, which is a brilliant phrase, it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can take being hit and still get back up and keep moving forward. And I think that's absolutely on the button. Have a great week, rest of the year, fantastic Christmas if we don't speak before, but yeah, and thanks again for the continued support. It really is appreciated. If you want to carry on supporting me, please go to tobyjetsonofficial.com. That is the centre of my world, and you'll find everything you'll ever need about me there. Thanks again.